And there's a wild turkey running through the cemetery. You just don't see that every day, do you? Today's adventure takes us to a rather remote area near Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, where behind me is a cemetery called Union Cemetery. This cemetery has been here since the mid-1800s. Has a little bit of fascinating history to it. There's a couple of pioneers in here that we're going to discuss, a doctor from the Civil War and a pioneer from the aviation industry. And we'll find their graves today and look at some of these wonderful gravestones and monuments in the cemetery. So come join me as we explore Union Cemetery. Welcome back, everybody, for another video. This time we are near Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've come across this small cemetery called Union Cemetery. I mean, it's not that small, it's just rather old cemetery. Let me see if we can get in here. There we go. Somebody has a rubber glove there. Maybe doing some maintenance on the cemetery. Interesting setup with the big wheels. All right, let's see what we can find here in Union Cemetery. Several hundred graves in here. Not nearly the size of Lakewood Cemetery, which is another cemetery I just did in Minneapolis while I'm up here. It's always good to get out and explore a little bit. Here we see one of those Zinkies. Gillette is the name. George Gillette, born 1885, died 1887. Young man. Helen Barton, wife of George, 1856, died 1887. Well, that's interesting. They were both very young, and they died just over a month from each other. Leads me to believe that there's some disease or something in that area. We see Going Home. And Gertie Gillette. Oh, this is so sad. Born 1881, died 1882. She wasn't even a year old. So it appears the entire family was wiped out. Here's Elma, 1879 to 1907. So she did survive. Her parents died 1887 when she was very young. She was only about 8 years old when her parents died. Very sad. And she didn't live to be that old either. 1879 to 1907. So she wasn't very old. Less than 30. What a beautiful cemetery. Still in operation. Here we have the Barton Monument, Henry Barton. There's his tombstone right there. Like many of these old ones, there is Civil War. Doctor Percival Barton, first Minnesota HA. I'm not sure what HA stands for. We have Charles here. Crancer, it looks like. And Mary Jane, wife of Charles Croshaw. Oh, it's Croshaw is the name. Born 1841, died looks like 1875. Awesome stuff. Here's the monument of Doctor Percival Barton. He was a surgeon in the 7th Minnesota Infantry, and then he was a surgeon in Illinois as well. And you see here, 1822 to to 1914, and Sarah, his wife, 1823 to 1902. Thank you for your service, sir. This one's a bit worn. Matthews looks to be the name. Let's see if I can see this with my flashlight. R.J. Matthews, 1890 it looks like. Can't really tell the years there. That one's a little bit older. This is an interesting, very interesting stone. See 18 something on the bottom there, but that's all I can make out with that one. So I'm thinking what happened here, this is the original stone right here, and then somebody had come along a long time ago, because this is some old concrete or cement, and put that marker in that makeshift obelisk looking thing. You hear fireworks going off in the background for some reason. I'm not sure what that's about. As of this recording, we are still a month out from 4th of July. In memory of Frederick Bloomsetter, born 1852, died 1894. Again, not very old, 41 years of age. A nice monument to him. What a beautiful, beautiful cemetery this is. Let's see what else we can find. Old obelisk here. Very worn, very worn. David, wife of David. I see M-A-R something, wife of David. That's about all I can make out on that one. Even the surname down here. Maybe you can make it out better than I can. I can't even make that out. Well, this is sort of interesting to have out in the middle of a cemetery. Perhaps a well is the only thing I could think of. But there's a flange there, and of course this is all filled in. I can only imagine that at one time that was a well. Beautiful tree stump monument here. Karl Helm, H-E-L-L-M. That is in German. September 1850 something to 1903. Beautiful monument to him. As we turn around here, for some reason this whole area has many markers in it and is marked off. Unsure of the reason why, but it's freshly marked. We have George Henry Rutter, it looks like, R-U-T-T-E-R, Minnesota Technical Sergeant, Marine Corps, 1922, looks like to 1941. Very young. Must have died during World War II. Let's see what else we have over here. Dan Funkenbush, U.S. Air Force in Korea, 1937 to 2013. And you can see, as we pan here, These are some of the newer monuments. I have to check out one over here in the corner because it is very, very distinctive. Before I do that, this one, somebody's been keeping this one up. Have some fresh flowers here. Robert Ista. Jodiel, still alive apparently. Let me pick that up for them. There we go. And he was part of the United States Marine Corps, 1930 to 2017. Lived a very, very long life. I want to bring your attention to this one. This is interesting. There's an aircraft engine here, a radial. It's an R985 radial Pratt & Whitney engine. And why is it here, you say? What can possibly be the reason why this aircraft engine is sitting here? Well, it's for Bernard Albert Wiplinger, and he was a pioneer in amphibious aircraft. He was the founder of Wipline company that designs, certifies, and manufactures floats for Cessna aircraft. He was also a veteran, and this should be an R985 because I've worked on these before in my life. Engine's in pretty good shape. Great monument to him and his accomplishments in the aviation industry. Well, this is pretty interesting. As I was exploring the perimeter of this old cemetery, I found what I believe to be the original gate. You can see how it's closed there. Yeah, I believe this is the original gate to the cemetery. You see cemetery there. I don't know if you can see that. It has the name of the cemetery right there. Union Cemetery. And as I pan out, if that's the original gate, that means there used to be a road there, which is long, long gone. Interesting though. As we go up here, we see Anderson Stone. And that's all it says. Just Anderson. What do we have up here? In between the two trees, in loving memory of Albert Davis, 1898, and Albert Davis Jr., 1918, and Harriet Davis Gundy, 1924, and Walter Gundy, 1941. So it appears that Albert passed away shortly after little Albert was born. Harriet remarried Walter, and they're all on the same stone here. It doesn't say if Harriet and Walter had children or not. That is pretty neat, being able to determine the lineage just from that tombstone. And there's a wild turkey running through the cemetery. You just don't see that every day, do you? I see a family plot here that has this curbing, but I don't, here's the name. Hessman is the name, but I do not see any tombstones or markers. Here's a tombstone here. Is this Hessman? No, this is not Hessman. Jack and Bonna. So that's sort of interesting. Usually there'll be a tombstone or marker there that you would see. There's a couple very old looking tombstones. Let's see what these say. See Jan-ESC it looks like. And something F, I see Ley. Yeah, that's a little hard to read. Do a little research on that one. Again, that one is hard to read. Bugs are out in force today, although I'm in the middle of the woods, really, so they should be. Another Gillette monument, we saw one earlier as we came in. Louisa died 1884, and George died 1887, and Arthur 1921. And I'm looking, and these bolts that are on here are modern, so these were recently put on. Maybe that fell off or was loose and they put new bolts in, because here's the original ones here. Ellen Gillette, and here's Emma Lucy, Louisa Sophia, George Edgar, Arthur J, Edwin Stanton. It says when they're born. I don't know about death though. Did they all die at the same time? Or is that just acknowledging the fact that they had those children? That I don't know. Here's Albert, who's the father, 1826 to 1888. Interesting. Of course, another veteran, Albert Gillette, 1895 to 1957. Navy, World War I. Thank you for your service. A lot of Gillettes in here. And this monument caught my eye. It is the largest in the cemetery, standing probably 12 feet tall. Harriet is the name. Wife of something Libby, 1826 to 1882. It's a very nice monument to Harriet. Let me see if there's any other identifiable markings on this one. Don't see any. Negative, just Harriet. This one here, however, has fallen over in the ground. Cook is the last name. I don't feel like getting dirty. There's a bunch of ants around, so I'm not going to wipe the dirt off. Aged 33 years. Great monument. Wow, what a remarkable cemetery here, kind of in the middle of nowhere. We're in far eastern Minnesota near the Wisconsin border. I just heard a wild turkey. Hear that? Weird. But thank you for joining me today. I've never heard a wild turkey in a cemetery. Somewhere beyond that fence. And who knew I'd find an aircraft engine in a corner of a cemetery. Great monument to that aviation pioneer. Thanks again for joining me today. And as always, until next time, keep exploring.